Site in the village of Kirby Misperton. But first, Danny Hewson reports on why shale gas is so important and controversial.
This is fracking, or to give it its full title, high-pressure hydraulic fracturing. The aim is to get to gas trapped deep within layers of shale. Pumping water mixed with chemicals to make it slippy and sand to hold open the fissures as they're created should allow the lucrative fuel to escape. In the past, much of the region's economy and landscape was shaped by coal. That industry is almost all gone. But our part in the energy equation isn't over. If a shale industry can be successful, it could have an even greater impact.
84% of UK homes are heated using natural gas. Actually, we think that this is a very early phase of science. We don't know whether it will produce or not. And actually, through doing the 2D, the 3D, the core drilling and testing whether you can flow it safely and in commercial quantity, you then have a domestically sourced option if you prove that it can be successful.
And just look at where companies like INEOS believe they may be successful. Licenses for exploration cover vast swathes of our region. So far, only this site in Kirby Misperton has been given planning permission to frack. And last week, this site in Misson got the go-ahead for first-stage drilling. But campaigners expect next year to be pivotal.
I think the pace is quickening and companies are going to be putting in more applications in the next 6 months. We've seen activity from the industry in Lancashire and Yorkshire, but I think the industry is taking heart from the government decisions in those counties and will be pushing ahead. But if they think they're home and dry, they couldn't be more wrong.
Opposition has been highly organised. Some, like I did, have travelled to learn more. Here in Pennsylvania, where they've been fracking for over a decade, I met a group of mums with their own concerns. One has just made the return journey.
If you could develop shale in a bubble, in other words, there would be no air quality issues, no issues of water contamination or damage to homes or increased truck traffic or problems with spills, incidents, accidents. If you can guarantee your community 100% that they're not going to have any impacts at all, then by all means go right ahead. But the problem is with this industry, there is no guarantee.
But there are differences, and the industry here says it deserves time to win the public's trust.
Really what I think needs to be done, and we're finding, is building the confidence in the process. So explaining the 2D, the 3D, the core drilling, what people are doing, what does a site look like, what are the risks and issues that we're dealing with as a company. That actually is the bit that needs to be done alongside the planning process.
Whatever your views, it's expected next year will deliver first-hand experience for at least one community, potentially one in this region.
Danny Hewson reporting. Well, let's cross live now to Kirby Misperton and join Len Tingle at the third energy site. Len, just remind us of the significance of where you are.
Well, this is the site that, well, for the last 2 decades or more, they've been extracting gas conventionally. We're a couple of 100 metres away from the village of Kirby Misperton, which is very close to Flamingo Land, if you want to locate exactly where we are. But just on this site, just a few metres away, they hope to start the first extraction using the controversial system of fracking. I'm joined by Kevin Hollingrake, who's a local Conservative MP. Kevin Hollingrake, you were on that trip to the United States that we've just seen. You looked at fracking for yourself. You're convinced that it's a good thing. Why is that?
Well, I see it as a national opportunity, and let's not forget, the decision to push ahead with shale gas exploration was taken in Parliament in January 2015 and passed by a majority of 250 votes. That's because we need gas. We've got 22 million homes connected to gas supplies for cooking and heating, and we're closing down our coal-fired power stations and replacing them with gas-fired stations because they're cleaner.
But the MPs that passed that don't live in the village that's just a few hundred metres away. They're not part of the group that say this is a dangerous system, it could cause earth tremors, it could contaminate the water supplies. Why are you convinced that it won't?
Well, I went to Pennsylvania to see if this really could be done properly, and I think it can. But yes, I quite understand the local concerns, and what I've been doing for the last 18 months is working very hard to make sure we have the proper mitigations and moderations to make sure we do this properly. Baseline monitoring of water water and air quality to demonstrate whether this can be done within safe environmental limits and making sure it's planned properly so we don't see too many wells and so it can blend into the countryside.
But the company that's doing this here, they see it as controversial as well. They've allowed you and me on site to talk about it, but they wouldn't allow us to bring anybody on who is against it to debate with you.
Well, I quite understand the concerns, and I have gone out of my way to meet with those concerns, to listen to protesters. I know people are concerned, but I think we have got good science and good scientists. Our regulations are very strong, so I do believe we can do this safely, but we need to see the evidence of that. I quite understand that, and those people also need to see the evidence of that.
But we're seeing a huge mix of different ways of generating electricity, essentially to keep our lights on.
Yeah.
Do we really need this fracking?
Well, yes, we do, and you're quite right, we do need a mix. I'm a massive supporter of renewables. This isn't gas or renewables. We need both. We need nuclear, but we import around 45% of our gas today, 70% by 2030. We need gas. We can produce it, and if we can produce it, it's better than importing it.
This part of North Yorkshire is one of the most beautiful in the country. It's one of the most protected in the country. Is this the right place to do it?
Well, we have won concessions from the government so there's no surface drilling in national parks and areas of outstanding natural beauty, but nevertheless the rest of the countryside here is very beautiful too, and we need to make sure it's planned properly so we don't damage the countryside and the landscape looks today like it will look in a few years' time, and I believe we can do that.
Kevin Hollingake, local Conservative MP, thank you very much. And with that, from here in Kirby Misperton, it's back to you, Tim, in the studio.
Len, thank you. Well, joining us live today are Andrew Cooper. It is Andrew Cooper, isn't it?
It is.
Andrew Cooper, Green Party's energy spokesman and Kirklees councillor, and Roger Helmer, UKIP's energy spokesman. He's also an MEP for the East Midlands region. Andrew Cooper, what do you make there of Kevin Hollinghake's assurances that the checks and balances are in place for fracking to be carried out safely?
I think the evidence would fly in the face of that. If you look at Conservative MEPs, they voted against strict fracking regulations in Brussels. So they voted against those. So if we're supposed to have a strict regime, why did they vote against that? And actually, if you look at the regulations that we have, those were regulations that were put in place pre-fracking for gas exploration.
Roger Helmer, you support fracking. Do the environmental risks not bother you?
They've been grossly exaggerated. The Green Party has done a huge disservice to the British economy and British working people by exaggerating very small risks. I too have been to Pennsylvania and Texas. I never met anybody there who was concerned about these issues about air quality and water quality. What I met was people who were very excited about the economic opportunities that were presented. This could be like North Sea gas all over again. You know, across Yorkshire and Nottinghamshire and Lincolnshire, people remember the coal industry. They were very upset when the coal industry closed down. We've now got the opportunity of shale gas, which is much cleaner and much safer and a much better proposition and offers similar economic opportunities.
A boom industry, Andrew Cooper. North Sea gas all over again.
Well, what Roger's got to ask himself is why in Pennsylvania doctors, the medical profession in Pennsylvania, asking for a moratorium on fracking because of the impact on health of local people there. So if it's that safe, you would expect medical professionals to have a different view to Roger.
But why do people here, Roger Helmer, not want fracking in their backyard? They don't seem convinced of the benefits or the safety, do they?
Well, because they've been assaulted. The bad news seems to get out before the good news, because they've been assaulted by this constant propaganda. Talk of earthquakes. There has never been an earthquake as a result of fracking. There have been some very minor earth tremors, about on the same level as natural background seismic activity. And there have been one or two small incidents of water contamination in the States. The industry is getting very much better, very much safer, better controls in place, and as I say, the economic opportunity, the energy security, the effect on our balance of payments, the possibility of new jobs, new industries. This is an enormous opportunity, as I say, like North Sea gas all over again, and really we ought to seize it.
So has there been some scaremongering going on?
I don't think so. I mean, there's lots of really, from the United States, lots of examples about water contamination, impacts on health. And I think the important thing here is there are lots of alternatives to fracking. There's things like energy efficiency, insulation programs, renewables. All these are much better alternatives than damaging and with the health impacts of fracking.
But we've pursued all these renewables ideas, and the national grid is now right on the edge of power cuts through the wind. No, that is true. You talk to the national grid; they are very close. The margin of safety is very, very small. The things you are trying to do to substitute for real power generation are just not delivering. And the bitter irony is that because of the intermittency of wind power, we're actually having to rely on diesel generators to fill in the gas.
This is utter nonsense.
No, it's not utter nonsense. It's actually happening. No. Go and check the facts.
The point is that if you look right the way across Europe, we have a very low percentage of our energy coming from renewables. Other countries across the European Union have 50% plus of their energy coming from renewable sources. So if it's possible there, why is it not possible in the UK?
Because it's so expensive.